यदि उसकी कहानी बताऊंगा तो आप लोग रो दीजिएगा। बच्चा भी जब था तो 3 साल की उम्र में उसको 3000 स्पेलिंग याद थी। मैं एक छोटा सा गरीब आदमी, गरीब ढंग से अपने गुजारा करने वाला, फुटपाथ से अपने पैंट शर्ट को लाता था दिल्ली से। मेरी पत्नी 100 रुपए की साड़ी पहन के बच्चे को पढ़ाई पूरा इलाका जानता है।
The death of Atul Subhash, a 34-year-old tech professional from Bengaluru, has sparked a nationwide conversation about men's rights and the misuse of laws meant to protect women.
तो मेरा मानना है कि मुझे खुद को ही खत्म कर लेना बेस्ट है मेरे लिए, क्योंकि जो मैं पैसे कमा रहा हूँ उसी से मैं अपने दुश्मन को बलवान बना रहा हूँ। वही पैसे मुझे ही बर्बाद करने के लिए यूज हुए और ये साइकिल बढ़ता ही रहेगा, है ना। मेरे ही टैक्सेस के पैसे से ये कोर्ट, ये पुलिस सिस्टम मुझे और मेरी फैमिली को और बाकी लोगों को भी हैरास करेगा जो अच्छे लोग हैं।
Atul died by suicide on December 9th. He left behind a 24-page suicide note and a 90-minute video where he shared the details of his legal battles, many of which were initiated by his wife. In his note, Atul accused his wife, Nikita Singhania, of demanding 2 lakh rupees per month in maintenance for their minor son. She later asked for 3 crore rupees, which was a significant increase from her initial request of 1 crore rupees. He also claimed that she mocked him, asking why he hadn't taken his own life yet. Atul also described how a judge allegedly laughed at his situation during a court hearing, which deeply hurt his faith in the legal system. Following his death, Bengaluru police filed a case of abetment to suicide against Atul's wife, her mother, brother, and uncle. An FIR has been registered under sections 108 and 3 clause 5 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita Act based on a complaint from Atul's brother, Vikas Kumar. The suicide has raised many important questions. Are laws meant to protect women being misused? Is Section 498 of IPC being wrongly used against men? How are men's mental health issues being addressed in India? Do we have family laws in India that treat both genders equally? To talk about these critical issues, we have with us Deepika Narayan Bharadwaj, an independent journalist, documentary filmmaker, and equal rights activist. She's also the founder of Ekam Nyay, an NGO dedicated to promoting gender equality and addressing the challenges faced by men in society.
Thank you so much for joining, firstly, ma'am. Now, since you've worked in such cases a lot previously and you have been an active advocate of men's rights, and especially in cases where they have been falsely accused, so do you think that the laws that are meant to protect women in India are somewhere failing to provide justice to men?
Yes, absolutely, Akshita. There are, this is not what I'm saying, but this is what our courts have recognized. They are dealing with these cases day in, day out. So nobody can understand the fabric of how a law is being used or misused better than the courts that are dealing with these cases day in, day out. So it's not once, it's not twice. I think Supreme Court itself has passed judgments probably about 25, 30, maybe 50 times, commenting upon how 498A has been grossly misused. As recent as last week, Supreme Court once again said that the law is being misused by wives to make the husband give in to her unreasonable demands, and the law is being misused as a weapon. So it is not us who are saying that. Of course, we are dealing with these cases day in, day out, and so we are aware of what's happening on ground. But it's the court's experiences as well, and whether it is 498A, of course, happens to be the most misused, but there is a decent amount of misuse of all of these special provisions, which is the rape laws, the molestation, stalking, just now, while I was coming to for this interview, I received a message from my colleague about case study where a man met with an accident where a woman hit his bike and he got badly injured, and he then called the cops. And in front of the cops, when the woman started instead alleging him of inappropriate behavior, he started recording, that she was falsely accusing him. And that's when even the cops, instead of making the woman understand that what she's doing is wrong, they instead attacked this boy, and they filed an FIR on him and took him into custody. And he came out of jail after 3 or 4 days, and now he is pressing charges against the woman as well. So it's whenever there is an equation between a man and a woman, and if there's a conflict, whether that's in matrimonial disputes or whether that is in any other scenario, it is very, very unfortunate that women are resorting to making false allegations. And it's not just women. Women are being used as shields also, or the women laws are being used as not a shield, I would say, as a weapon. So anything wrong happens, there's a sense that's going out in everybody, that whether that's a property dispute or a neighborhood dispute or a construction dispute, or I mean any dispute. We saw a video where a woman had started tearing her clothes when insurance agents came to recover a loan amount, you know. So I think it is very, very scary. And I think it is something that needs to be condemned also and needs to be addressed also. Otherwise, while we would count these cases as cases of crime against women, they're not really crime against women.
Like you correctly pointed out, that Section 490A has been in the news for a while, and especially after the sad demise of Atul Subhash, it has again been into the news. It's mainstream, and a lot of men's rights activists, men's rights organizations now, even in social media, we have seen that people are demanding that this law be removed and all the men arrested under the cases should be stopped. But we also know that dowry is still a very major problem in India, and of course we are now finding false cases, misuse of these laws, but this cannot be repealed completely as well. So what do you have to say about that? Like, what reforms would be required?
So, there was a time, I have been working on these cases since 2012, and I have made a complete full length documentary on misuse of IPC 498. It's called Martyrs of Marriage. When I was making the documentary, and for quite long time after that, I was also of the staunch opinion that the law shouldn't be removed or repealed, but because there are very, very genuine victims of dowry or domestic violence. But over years, Akshita, honestly, I see such horrid misuse of this act that maybe it is time that this is entirely overhauled. I think just today there is a judgment from the Supreme Court where they have stated that a woman who a husband may be in extramarital affair with or has a certain relationship with does not come into the ambit of cruelty under 498A. Now, this man, of course, or the woman basically, had to go all the way to Supreme Court to get her name removed. Or, she could have just been a friend of a man, And so the law is not being used for what it was made for. There are married women who are sisters of a man who are implicated. Their husbands are also sometimes implicated with an intention to, disturb a completely different family altogether, And, if a man has a marriage not working out, and just because of that, his sister gets implicated, his parents get implicated, brothers get implicated, uncles, aunts.
Distant relatives too.
Yeah, it is just bizarre. And then if you expect that police is going to just play the part of rightful implementation, we all know that the police does not. So where is the deterrent? Where is for an innocent not being booked? The law needs to be redefined. The law needs to have check and balances. Uh, time and again, it is 498A that's, whose horrid face is, comes in front of public, where just anybody and everybody gets, implicated. And even if their names are removed, even if at the end of the day they are found innocent, they have spent years in a criminal trial. The punishment, if a person is convicted under 498A, is 3 years. But on an average, people end up spending minimum 5 to 10 years in just being tried under
The
this section.
process itself is a punishment for
Yes,
these people.
absolutely, absolutely. And it is a criminal offense, though its nature has been completely altered from what it was to what it is today. But it is still, at the end of the day, a criminal offense. We dealing with these cases have become immune to this section per se, but I still remember in 2011 when I got to know that we may be slapped with a 498A. I was horrified and petrified that what is going to happen, what is going to happen. It is everybody was kind of scaring that you will immediately be sent to jail. And that time, that was the situation. People were immediately arrested. Coming back to the main point, I personally feel that it is time for 498 to be completely overhauled. The law has to go, and probably if they think appropriate, they can bring in a new law with better definition, because anything and everything is being reported as cruelty under 498A, and then after years of trial they say this is not cruelty, that is not cruelty. So it's a very subjective law. It is. And when we say that dowry is still a problem in the country, then let us also understand that we need to look at what provisions are there already, whether they are being appropriately applied or not. Dowry demand and giving, not just demand, and giving was outlawed in 1961. I don't know of one family that, if somebody makes a demand, you obviously can reject that demand, right? But if somebody is giving it willingly, that is also criminalized. But I don't know of one single person in the last how many years it's been, 40, 50, 50, 60 years of the law being in place. I don't know of even 6 people who were punished for giving dowry, where we see it happening day in, day out. So, and if there is someone who is making the demand of dowry, you can immediately book that person under the Dowry Prohibition Act, and stop the demand then and there. But after 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years of marriage, almost every FIR, in fact, all 498 FIRs, no matter how long the marriage has been, start with this allegation that शादी शुरू होते ही दहेज मांगना शुरू कर दिया था, और दहेज की वजह से प्रताड़ना करनी शुरू कर दी थी. So you just write these 2 lines, and then the person can't prove that they didn't demand dowry. The woman also can't prove that there was a demand of dowry. So it's very subjective.
I have a lot of questions regarding what you said. Like, yeah, first things, in India, also the tradition of gifts is there, where voluntarily gifts are given within families when marriages happen, and this is across all cultures and across the whole country. So it's very difficult to understand that nuances and have proof that this was a gift or a dowry, and these gifts are pretty expensive, so it can be labeled as dowry also in some cases. But firstly,
I was just watching a video recently. It was a video that was viral on social media. There was a bride and a groom sitting on the stage, and on the left side of the stage were all of these gifts that were displayed in public. It had a car. It had an AC, a microwave, I don't know, everything was just being laid out over there. And the bride and groom were sitting pretty happy on the stage and they were rejoicing. The wife looked pretty happy. The bride looked pretty happy. So everybody is doing it. It's just that when things go turn sour, then every gift becomes a dowry, or just in statements, they say they were demanding 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, and the scripts have transformed, but the offense or the misuse of the law remains the same. Earlier, they used to write that there was a demand of cycle, then there was a demand of bike, then there was a demand of car. Sometimes we have seen that exactly the same car is being demanded by everyone. So because the lawyers have these, and this is not my words, I mean, this has also been observed in one of the judgments by the Supreme Court, that there are these advocates are drafting template complaints in 498A. So this is an absolutely open secret. It has been in public realm for such a long time, but unfortunately the lawmakers do not want to do anything about it.
So here, just to put it for our viewers also, that this is not to trivialize dowry cases. We are not trying to do that over here, but we are trying to point out the misuse of it. And like I said, there are many questions. The first thing that I want to ask you is now, like I mentioned, we are not trivializing dowry. And in 2022, we have realized that dowry constituted the sixth highest motive of murder in India. And this is regardless of gender, again, according to NCRP data. And we also know that as per the National Family Health Survey, 80.1% of women who faced violence by their current husbands never reported it. So that's still a huge problem. And like you mentioned that the section 498 should be removed. So what could be the alternative solution here for this? One thing that you mentioned is that there should be clear, defined definitions given in the law itself, so that not everything can come under the ambit of cruelty. But over that, what are the reforms that are required, considering that both these things have to be in place? There has to be equal justice at least.
Akshita, honestly, I have refrained from passing any remarks on this particular question because let us understand that I am a documentary filmmaker and a journalist.
Sure.
I have been looking into the problems with the law from a journalistic and a filmmaker point of view. I have done my law now, but I cannot call myself a legal expert. So I think it is the lawmakers that really need to first acknowledge that there is a widespread misuse and then look at what are the loopholes, what are the problems with the law, and how it can be modified, how it can be addressed, whether repealing is the solution or whether modifying it is the solution, whether removing some parts of it like husband and his relatives. Relatives now mean anything, or cruelty can mean anything, although the definition is pretty strict, but it is not applied that
in reality it's functioning in a different
way. It is like there is a conflict in the marriage, and the first thing that you do is you go to the cops and file a 498. That's kind of the first thing that you do. But having said that, in my personal opinion, 498 came in 1983. After that, we already have the Domestic Violence Act. Okay, so that takes care of all kind of domestic violence and provides recourses in the form of maintenance and residence rights and everything else. So what is it that is 498A actually providing apart from that? Yes, it criminalizes violence. Okay, so violence has other sections, generic sections in the Indian Penal Code as well. Now, so after removing both of these things, what is left is basically cruelty. That there is emotional and physical, cruelty perpetrated upon the married woman in context of dowry. I think that can happen to both husband and wife as well. So I think the law needs to be made gender neutral, and there should be a special clause within the law itself to cater to misuse. And I'm not saying anything which is extraordinary or impossible to do. if there is a certain provision that has so many examples, documented examples of misuse, you need to do something about that provision. Sexual harassment at workplace bill within its framework has a penalty for false cases. So, in my experience, in last a decade or more, that's one law which is the law for crime against women. Technically, takes care of one of the things that is recognized as crime against women. I see the least misuse of sexual harassment at workplace vis-a-vis rape law or the dowry law, etc. Because one, there is wider committee for first of all in order to investigates it and all of that, and second is so there are not one judge who is sitting or not one investigation officer who's sitting and who's going to decide your fate, but it's a committee of people who can look at things from a very different point of view and come to a conclusion and discuss, especially when there is no violence, nothing. It's a he said she said kind of a situation. So I think bringing in check factor for these laws, I think is a need of the hour. So probably those things can be looked at.
So exemplary
And the law
punishment.
should be and the law should be made bailable. I mean, that is something that even Maharashtra, the Bombay High Court is also looking at that perspective for Maharashtra. In Andhra Pradesh, the law is already bailable. So that is something that can be done. I mean, wouldn't take too much time as well.
A temporary solution at least to work with.
Yes.
Fair enough. Also, your organization, Ekam Nyay, has recorded a severe number of cases and you've worked with such men. So, as per your experience, is there a pattern that follows in such cases? Like, is there a similarity that you've seen over the years?
So, see, even now, I just, in fact, was going to post, and I've been posting these direct messages of distress that I've been getting, emails. We are just flooded right now, not able to even cater to the volumes that we have. It's the pattern is exactly the same. I mean, there's a guy who just called me and he said that, is there nothing that he can do? His marriage broke down within 3 years. He has a child who's 1.5 year old. His wife kind of left him after struggle with. I mean, he says that his in-laws interfere just too much, and so that was the bone of contention. And she left. She took the child along. Has not allowed him to see the child at all. Whereas she has filed domestic violence case, 125 case, 498A case, asked for maintenance for herself as well while she is earning, and they're asking 2 crores. So now, understandably, this man technically has very, very bleak chances of being in the life of his child. Very, very bleak. Okay. Where there are very less possibilities. Now, his marriage, any which ways, did not last more than 1.5 years. Should he be paying 2 crore rupees? Should he be forced to pay that 2 crore rupees? And what happens if he does not pay that 2 crore rupees? His family, his parents, who are crying every day, have been dragged into the domestic violence case also, 498A case also. He personally has a maintenance case also. So and this guy is from Bangalore. His wife has filed the cases in some remote village in Kolkata. So he said, ma'am, I have to take a flight from Bangalore to Kolkata and then a train from Kolkata to that place. Almost 1.5 day, almost 2 days of mine just go in travel only. And then once I reach over there, she has not appeared in the last 4 days. So the exhaustion is a lot. So it's not just about the laws, it's about a lot of paraphernalia that comes along with it. Now, his in laws came to his house and threatened his family and parents, and I think beat them up. Now, when they are going to the police station, the police is not even willing to register an FIR. So he's saying, like, so what do we do exactly? Then you tell us what is the solution for us. If not, we also do what Atul
This
Subhash
is
did.
something exactly very similar to Atul's case, because he also said the very similar thing in his suicide note and his video recording.
Endless people like that. Endless people. There's a retired army veteran who called us. His son is in a matrimonial dispute with his wife. A poor family that stood up for the country, and the army officer's son is also an army officer. Poor chaps who have stood up for the country, protected the country, are now so helpless. He was almost in tears. He was a 75-year-old man who was calling me. And he was saying, ma'am, please help us. Ma'am, please help us. Ma'am, please help us. And he says that his son has actually been beaten up by his wife. Imagine an army officer getting beaten up by his wife. But you can't speak up, you can't speak out, you can't talk about it. And then the woman has obviously filed so many cases, and the cases have been running since years. So the emotional turmoil that it takes cannot be fathomed by anyone who has not experienced this. So the entire toxicity of the situation weighs very, very heavy. And worst thing is that you see your family suffer just because your marriage didn't work out. So that's quite a trauma that a lot of men deal with.
So in general, the pattern is that firstly the cases might be filed in places where they are not staying or in different cities.
So I'll tell you what. There's a guy I am right now counseling who spent approximately 65 lakhs on his wedding from his pocket. Extremely, extremely big wedding. The woman comes from a very, very humble background. And they hardly made any expenditure, hardly. The marriage has failed within 4 months because the woman thinks that this man is aggressive, doesn't his parents are very regressive. They don't have a modern outlook. The guy is very, very questioning whatever she's doing. So there is no violence, there is no dowry, nothing is there. A sheer incompatibility, wrong expectations. The woman wants to be treated a certain way. When I say treated in a certain way, means I'm talking about gifts. So, smallest of requests of a gift, and if the guy is not able to give that, then that became a point of contention. So, and let us understand that a lot of these things happen between boyfriends and girlfriends also, right? It's not that all the boyfriends and girlfriends break up because there's a violence or there is, dowry demand. But there are lakhs of people who
There are expectations that people have in relationships.
There are lakhs of people who have a breakup, right?
Yeah.
So why do we not have a provision for a girlfriend to file a dowry or a dowry case on a boyfriend? अगर इतना ही डाउरी सीकर्स हैं सारे के सारे आदमी तो अपनी गर्लफ्रेंड से भी तो डाउरी मांग ही सकते हैं ना बट एनी विच वेज not trivializing but what the point that I'm making is smallest of incompatibilities smallest of issues then become very very big and then as soon as the marriage is almost collapsed first thing is 498 you'll be called to the crime against women cell you and your entire family will have to sit there in front of police officers as accused no matter how innocent you are, you're sitting over there in the capacity of an accused and not a victim or, just somebody who's gone there for talking to them. You're sitting there as an accused because the woman has leveled allegations against you. So they talk to you like you're an accused. They behave with you like you're an accused. They pressurize you to give in to whatever demand she's making because it is her right to make demands for some reason, but you cannot say anything. So the harassment starts from there. After that, if the woman decides that she is definitely going to press the FIR, then the police say we cannot do anything, we will have to file the FIR. So then there's a criminal case against you. Just recently I was sharing, somebody had sent a message This guy was in a government job and he was immediately thrown out from his job, suspended, because he has a criminal case against him. And he said all the allegations were false, but I lost my job. And a lot of people have those professional ramifications, because once a criminal case is registered against you, you're technically an
Yeah.
accused, you're listed in as a criminal. Then comes a domestic violence case where she asks for maintenance. Even in cases where there's no child, where the woman is earning pretty well, she can file the domestic violence case. Nobody can stop her from doing so, no matter how false it is. So, another case. Then there is a maintenance demand under CRPC 125 also. So you have,
Multiple
you are,
cases.
yeah, you as one entity having a dispute with another entity. Between the two of you have endless litigation, endless. So and then you are at the receiving end everywhere. There is kind of no provision that gives you a respite that if you have been wrong, then you can also file a case on the other person. Until unless it's a case of brutal assault by the wife. Even if it is brutal assault, we have dealt with those cases where the cops did not register an FIR, even in that case, where the husband was bleeding. So, and then within few months, there is some interim maintenance that is granted. So you start paying also,
Yeah.
and then you continue to pay. You pay the cops, pay the lawyers, you pay, this woman for travel or
The whole
litigation.
fees
You
of the
pay
process
for
as well.
maintenance. So it's your money being used against you for not few months, but for years. It is a set pattern. And in some cases, some people have stooped so low that they resort to false rape allegations on brother-in-law, father-in-law, and the entire husband's family that is then like running helter-skelter.
So, like they ask, what can be done in such cases? What provisions or what can be the help that men can resort to if false cases are being filed against them?
Fight. Just fight.
So, there's nothing as of now that they can do apart from having to endure the long process. Is there anything that they can do? Nothing. So, even with your NGO, they are just going on with the long process that's happening.
There are some people who have had successes in the sense that, but these are all indirect measures. Some people have succeeded in filing a case against the wife and her family. Um, in some cases where they were beaten up, so there's a case against the woman also now. And she comes to a negotiation table basically. So all that you can do is expedite the efforts of mediation, where you are both coming, either she gets scared or either she gets, she understands that, okay, this guy is not just going to shell out money and I will have to also fight for years, so let's just settle. But in most cases, it's the settlement that happens at the end of the day. Very, very, very few cases in which either the husband has gotten punished or, the case went through a complete trial. But there are a lot of cases like that as well. I had shared a case with advocate Deeptanshu Shukla, and he's practicing in Indore right now. An IITian who then studied law and now practicing in the court after having personally seen all of these things that happen. So we did an interview about a case that he did where he got a 498A case tried against the husband within 2 years, and they won the case. So now they have one hurdle already cleared. So they've won the case. In fact, filing a false case is a valid and genuine ground for divorce. So now he can proceed for, filing a divorce on grounds of cruelty. And dheere dheere everything, whatever has been observed in 498 is going to help them a little bit in the other cases as well. Because the allegations are ditto. Ditto. It's just copy paste. You make 4 copies, 5 copies, keep on filing cases. It's the same allegations, just a little bit of changes here and there of the format in which the case is filed. So some people have been able to actually fight it very, very hard and give a very clear signal to the other party that I'm not going to give up and I'm not going to shell out money as well. So you can do whatever you want to do, and they keep fighting. So But apart from that, no, you need to defend these cases. There are some decent, good advocates who get parties to come together and resolve all of it through mediation sooner than
In the
in
court
some
process at
cases.
least.
But yeah, there are cases which have been going on for what, 10, 15 years,
So we
18.
need gender neutral laws, especially when it comes to marital disputes and family laws specifically, because the whole system is very complex in India and it's very easy to misuse and also to report for women if they are in genuine cases.
Yep.
Also, coming back to this, a few days ago, the Supreme Court gave some guidelines regarding alimony, at least. A step has been taken. What do you have to say about that?
I think there's nothing new in those guidelines. There are set guidelines or set kind sort of understanding that is already prevalent in the courts. Courts have also, Supreme Court has also, made it, Supreme Court has also made it very clear that both the parties need to file affidavits of their earnings, assets, liabilities. Now, brilliant step, quite a productive solution to the problem that were there. But unfortunately, what we see in our experience is that even if the woman is lying about her job potential, even if it is she's lying about how much salary she earns, even if she declares whatever she declares absolutely bogus, there are cases where the husband has pressed for perjury charge, but the court did not take it seriously at all. So implementation is also a problem. But these guidelines are exactly the same. This is already set precedent that the maintenance or the alimony will be granted as per
The
financial
income.
the parties, of how the financial status of the woman can change over years. For example, if she's a young mother, then someday she would
Mm,
really, really require money for education,
mm.
educating the kids. Then, what are the liabilities on these people? How many years have they been staying together and things like that? So these are already set precedents. Whether the man is working or not, whether he's jobless, it is his duty, moral responsibility to pay. So yeah, these guidelines are just reiteration of previous thoughts that Supreme Court has already shared on this matter.
But it's not something that's happening on the ground as per your experience at least.
And no, no. Well, I would not say everything is extremely, extremely hopeless. In metros, at least, the courts are much more sensitive. In smaller areas, the courts are still, with very, very rigid behaviors, thinking that the woman would not have done anything wrong, and it's a man who must have done something for her to drag him to the court. So I think there's a little bit of more prejudice.
Also, the death of Atul Subhash points out to a bigger problem regarding men's mental health. That though so much was going on, they are not able to seek help. At least I think in Atul Subhash case, there was a clear cut that he had planned his suicide and he had posted about it and everything was done.
Yeah.
And just right after a few days, a Bangalore police constable committed suicide here. So it's again a very repeated cycle that is happening. So, what is stopping them from seeking help? I mean, of course, we understand there's a lot of taboo regarding men's mental health, but as per your experience again, what is stopping them? What does it say about men's mental health in our society?
So, I had a very, very bad showdown with a female panelist who happens to be a model on one of the TV channel debates. And she said, if this guy is, it was very, very insulting the way she spoke about somebody who's no longer there, who's not alive. And she said, this guy is doing paisa, 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 paisa. He could have just spent some paisa on a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and that could have, helped him. And I just asked her, if a woman dies by suicide, saying that she was being harassed for dowry, it's also at the end of the day a monetary demand only, right? Why does she need to end her life? Why don't we ever say that why are women who choose to end their life because of harassment in their marital home, not go to a psychiatrist or take care of their mental health. We never say that because I don't know. I mean, why would someone not say something like that? Because that is considered wrong, really, because you understand that this suicide is not because of mental health issue, but the suicide is because she was pushed to the corner, or she was actually a victim of abuse, and not really that she was not able to handle her emotions well or things like that. So I think the same goes for men as well. When you're pushed to the corner, when you see bleak possibilities of having the life that you thought you would have, you tend to become depressed. And in the scenario that I have shared, when you are, you're literally like a football being kicked all the sides. There's police, there's lawyers, there's dates, there's traveling, there's maintenance demand,
And
there's
there's a family that's
cases.
being exposed to the same thing.
And last but not the least, you are fighting a battle against somebody who you once loved, you know. So that is the kind of sadness that brings. And, it is very easy to discuss these things, but very different to experience these things. When the person that you someday loved, or you tried to, make up also with, when there was any dispute, when that person turns around and says that you beat her up, or you subjected her to dowry demand. There are so many men who say, um, uh, I not say, there are so many men who would have done everything in their stead to make the marriage work, including, spending money, spending time, spending everything. And then still, if she decides, there are a lot of people who come to us who have been cheated by their wives, she's in adultery. And still, she slaps all of these cases on this guy. So, even if Atul Subhash went to the best therapist in the world, that therapist would not have been able to resolve these cases for him, right? He could have perhaps, or she could have perhaps just told him that, you don't take these cases to your heart or your mind, you deal with them, but those people will not be traveling to with him to the courts, or be subjected to what he says he was subjected to. So how much is this a mental health issue vis-a-vis how much of it is a structural problem in the way laws have come forward in zest of protecting women, but are in turn have become tools of harassment for a lot of men. So I don't think so. But having said that, uh, there is a lot of pressure that men go through any which ways in their life. They are supposed to provide for their families. They are supposed to be the strong guy. They are supposed to not be vulnerable or weak and take everything as if, like, they're born with these tactics to
There's a
face it.
masculine, it's
Yes,
the macho man always
correct,
the life.
correct. So I have spoken to grown up adult men, somebody in 35, 30, 40s, 50s. They've literally cried in front of me like a baby, and a lot of men open up to me and, express their vulnerabilities. And it's just this sort of image that we have created that all men are, very, very emotionally strong and they can just take care of anything. That's not true. There are a lot of men who have very, very broken souls, and poor fellas cannot even speak up in front of everybody, but they open up in front of me because they understand that I understand, because there are just so many cases that I deal with. So there are a lot of men who are in cases of extreme harassment today, and I think the lawmakers really, really need to wake up.
So second, I think a holistic approach that requires, because firstly, of course, the legal, police, the courts need to have a better system when they have such cases. Plus, we need legislative changes and also societal changes where men can have some space to talk about their issues and not have the macho, toxic masculinity that does not have to be promoted, so that there's space for them to go and seek help where they are actually validated and they can seek something, and so that they don't go to the step of suicide at least.
True, absolutely.
Also, just a last question. Do you see Atul Subhash getting justice there? Is there some hope for you now?
See, the charge that has been leveled on the family, I actually would have expected the cops to add charge of extortion as well, because this is although if somebody is demanding money and if you do not pay that money, then they are basically harming you. Although he had not paid that money, but he was obviously being asked. I mean, 3 crore rupees is not a very justified demand. And it was very evident that if he's not going to give the money, then he would suffer, which his mother-in-law and which was said. So, but abetment to suicide is a very peculiar charge. There are certain ingredients that prove the offense of abetment. So it is yet to be seen whether the courts in the trial will see that this as enough and sufficient proof to prove whether there was abetment or not. But there was certainly instigation that has been mentioned explicitly in his note and his video as well. His last testimony should be seen as his dying declaration, and let's hope justice is done. But having seen so many cases where men died by suicide, and there was an abetment case filed as well. Those cases are still running. It's been 7-8 years. Some of the cases that I know, no result yet. In 2 of the suicide cases that I have shown in my documentary, the woman was eventually acquitted. So I think we'll have to wait and watch.
So still there's like not so much hope to say that justice will be served.
No, well, this case became very, very popular and got highlighted in media. Otherwise, we are seeing such cases every day. I've just now posted video of a sister from Erode, Tamil Nadu, whose brother died by suicide within 2 months of his marriage. And after now, they of course lodged abetment to suicide case, but the police did not take any action. Now her bhabhi has lodged a criminal case on this girl and his family. They have lost their brother. Brother died by suicide. Their father also passed away. So it's just this girl, her younger brother who's studying, and her mother who's disabled. And they will have to now, go from Erode to a place in UP, that far. So they've lost their loved one also, and now they'll have to go through a criminal trial because his estranged bhabhi is saying that either you remove that case of abetment to suicide or otherwise I'm going to make your life hell.
It's again a long process that's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this question should be posed to our viewers. Do they think that will justice be served to Atul Subhash or not? You can post it on the comments below though. And thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Akshita. Take care. Bye.